It didn't take a while, you study something, but you keep forgetting the information no matter how you try. I've been in your situation years ago until I discovered the technique that actually works for me. Since I applied the technique in school, it completely changed the way I study. In fact, most of the things I study, I still remember till today because of the technique that I applied. On this video, I'm going to be showing you the exact technique that I applied, and I'm going to be showing you how you can apply it to study and remember forever, just like I did. The technique I'm about to show you is something that I discovered myself and I've been applying since when I was in university. The technique is simply called the CAT framework. Now I'm going to be giving you an overview of the CAT framework, which is the method I apply in order to study and remember forever. Now, the CAT framework is a cyclic framework in which C stands for concentration, which goes down to association, which goes down to repetition, and which goes up back to testing, and it goes back to concentration. So this is the CAT framework, which actually helped me then. But then there's a mistake students make while applying this particular learning framework, which I want to address in this video. A lot of students tend to concentrate, repeat what they study, and test without associating what they study. They don't actually know that this is where the magic happens. This is where you can actually study and remember forever, because if you don't associate and you only repeat and you test, then that is where memorization comes in. And you wouldn't want to memorize. You always want to understand what you study. It is when you understand that you'll be able to associate. So in this video, I'm going to be teaching you how you can successfully associate anything you are trying to learn, and this is the focus of this video. I'm going to be discussing with you what association in terms of studying really means. I'm going to be explaining how association can actually help you to encode and retain whatever you learn in order for you to study and remember forever. And I'm going to be citing researches from neuroscience and cognitive science on how exactly you can apply association in order for you to study and remember forever. If you are new here, I'm Abayomi, and right here on this channel, I drop in tips and strategies that can help you as a student improve in your academics and learn better. If that sounds like something you're interested in, please subscribe to my channel right now. Before I go into all the things that I'm going to be sharing with you in this video, let me quickly explain what association really means in terms of studying and remembering forever. Association is about linking experiences, knowledge, and emotion to whatever you are trying to study. When you are trying to study something, association is about linking it to what you've already known before. And this is where most students make the mistake. When they are studying, they fail to actually link it to what you already know before. That is why they find it hard for them to remember. I'm going to be showing you how exactly you can associate whatever you are trying to learn by encoding them successfully and retaining them through researches from neuroscience and cognitive science. I'm going to be explaining association and what the neuroscience have actually told us about association. While you are studying, your brain goes through different processes, which is encoding, retaining, retrieving. Encoding, retaining, and retrieving. So your brain goes through these three processes whenever you are trying to learn. So if you don't encode successfully, there's no how you can retain and there's no how you can retrieve. And this encoding can actually help you to associate whatever you are trying to learn. But before then, let me explain what encoding actually means and how you can leverage it in order to help you study successfully. Now, encoding is when you are trying to put information into your brain, and when you are encoding, in order for you to associate, there's a particular part of your brain that is responsible for this. If you do not encode, there is no how you can associate successfully. And the part of your brain which is responsible for this is your prefrontal cortex. I'm trying to learn a topic in maths, which is calculus. Now, there are other knowledge that you need to understand in order for you to learn calculus successfully. And in order for you to learn calculus successfully, you need to understand indices, algebraic expression. You need to understand. So if you don't understand these two, there's no how you can actually understand calculus. So if you are trying to learn calculus now, your brain, your prefrontal cortex will help you associate the knowledge that you've actually learned in algebraic expression in order for you to successfully understand calculus. And when you do this, that is when your brain will be able to associate. And if you associate successfully, then you wouldn't have any problem in terms of remembering what you've learned. And if you can do that successfully, it will help you remember forever. Like I've said in this video, there are things that I've learned in my secondary school or in university that I can still apply now because I've associated it. And if you are associating anything you are trying to learn, you are lifting off the burden from your brain to do the work, and it's in the long-term process, it's in the long-term memory. Aside from examples in mathematics, for example, you're trying to learn a topic in economics. The topic you want to learn in economics is market structure. Now, in order for you to learn market structure, there are other topics that you need to understand. You need to understand theory of costs, and you need to understand production. If you don't understand production and theory of costs, there's no how you can understand market structure. And when you are learning market structure, your brain, this prefrontal cortex, tends to tap in from the existing knowledge that you've had in your brain in order for you to successfully learn anything you are trying to learn. That is why most of the time students have problems in certain subjects because they don't know the foundational knowledge. If you know the foundational knowledge, your prefrontal cortex, when you're trying to learn something in your prefrontal cortex, will help you to go deep down and look for existing knowledge about that thing that you're trying to learn. And once it associates it successfully, then you'll be able to learn any new thing successfully. And when you learn it successfully, and that is when you'll be able to remember. Because when you are trying to remember, your brain tends to refer back to the existing association as a clue for you to be able to remember. It is very important. In addition to what I have said, this prefrontal cortex, what is actually embedded in prefrontal cortex are neurons. And these neurons consist of all the experience that you've had in the past, the experience you've had, everything you've learned consists of neurons. You've actually made neurons for it. Now, take for example, you've made a neuron for production, which is this. And you are trying to learn market structure. That is a new topic. If you are trying to learn something in isolation, there's no how you'll be able to remember and understand if you are trying to learn something in isolation. So your brain will actually pick from the existing knowledge from production in order for you to learn market structure very well. Because in market structure, there are some things that concerns production in market structure. So if you don't understand production, there's no how you can learn market structure. So when you're learning market structure, you pick from existing knowledge from market structure in order for you to learn. You pick from existing knowledge from production in order for you to learn market structure successfully. So all this happens in the prefrontal cortex, and it's only happen in the encoding stage. So if you can successfully encode by associating, then you'll be able to retain. It is when the connection is established, that's when you'll be able to retain. In my other videos, I'll be explaining what embeds in retrieving and everything that has to do with retrieving. But that is how you can successfully associate anything you're trying to learn. When you have existing neuron of anything you're trying to learn, it's very easy for you to tap in from that neuron in order for you to successfully learn something you're trying to learn. And when that connection is established, you'll be able to remember at any point in time. For the cognitive science didn't really go in depth into the activities of the brain. According to their research, they made a particular fact and a particular proposition, which I've mentioned when I was explaining the neuroscience, but then I want to buttress on that very well right now. So what the cognitive science actually said about association is elaborative encoding. Elaborative encoding is when you add meaning and context to whatever you're trying to learn. Now, if you're trying to learn something in maths or something in any other subject, whether physics, chemistry, or any other subject, Now, when you are trying to learn, like I said, don't learn in isolation. Add meaning to it. That is, look for other things in your environment that you can attach to what you are trying to learn. If you are trying to learn a concept, maybe about force or about mass in physics or about anything, try to think about how is there any other experience that you've had that you can attach to what you are trying to learn. If you can successfully attach and add meaning to it in your own terms, then you'll be able to remember forever. But if you cannot do that and you're learning in isolation, that is when memorization comes in. And you wouldn't want to memorize whatever you're trying to learn because you will not be able to remember eventually. And you have problem in terms of remembering. So try to, when you are encoding, elaborative encoding, when you now attach it to context and everything that you've experienced in the past, then that's all those things actually serves as retrieval clue. So those retrieval clue will help you to remember anytime you want to remember. Because if you're having issues about trying to remember anything, if you just think about the clue you've associated it with while you are encoding, you'll be able to remember successfully. When discussing about the effective ways, we have what we call semantic association. We have what we call emotional association. Personal experience. Now, for semantic association, this is where you link what you are trying to learn to related concepts. Now, you're trying to learn something about statistics in economics or physics or any other subject. You're trying to learn something about statistics, but you've learned it in other subjects. It's very important for you to be able to link it to other subjects. In mathematics now, there is statistics, and in economics, there is statistics. And there's a particular topic you want to learn in statistics in maths, which is mean, right? Instead of trying to learn in isolation in economics, it's very important to tap in from what you've learned in maths about mean and try to understand it in economics. That is what semantic association is. Now, for emotional association, teachers use this very well when they are explaining, and most teachers don't use it. And that is why most of their students, they have issues. Now, when they are trying to introduce a class, a particular topic to students, if a teacher cannot pick up from experience the student have actually had in the past, that is, they call it entry behavior. If they cannot pick up from there, the students will find it hard to be able to understand. And because of this, that is where most students they cannot understand most of the things. Your teacher fails to apply this when he or she wants to teach you. It's left for you to do it while you are studying, and it is called emotional association. Now, what most teachers are supposed to do when they are introducing a class is for them to apply whatever they are teaching to an experience that you've had in your past. If they can successfully establish that connection, then it's very easy for you to learn and you will not have issue, because whenever you are trying to remember what they are teaching, you'll be able to associate it to what your teacher has actually established in class. But if your teacher fails to do it, and that's why most students have issues, then it's for you to be able to do it. Now, what if you are trying to learn something that has to do with that has to do with emotional experience? Now, if they are trying to teach you something in market structure and they are going into other concepts, or aside from even market structure, they are trying to teach you something in chemistry, physics, biology, maths, and every other thing, or maybe they are trying to teach you fraction in mathematics, they are trying to teach you anything, try to think about an experience that you've had while you are small or at any point in time where it is attached to a feeling. So whenever you remember that feeling, you'll be able to remember what that particular thing is. Most of the time, what I do is that I teach so many people while I am learning a particular thing. When I'm trying to remember, I try to link it. I try to link what I am trying to remember to the experience I had while I am teaching and the joy that I had over while I'm teaching. So if I can do that successfully, that is when you can emotionally associate whatever you are trying to learn. And it's also linked to personal experience. So if you can do that perfectly, you'll be able to associate and you'll be able to remember. If you can link what you are trying to learn to any experience or emotional experience that you've had in the past, it's very easy for you to remember forever. Now, if you're trying to learn something at all, try to think about what it reminds you of. If you can think about what it reminds you of, you'll be able to associate fast and you'll be able to remember at any point in time, because it will serve as retrieval clue at any point in time. And also try to use analogies while you are trying to study. And mnemonics. Mnemonics are abbreviations, like the one I used about cats. This is an abbreviation. You want to remember what CAT is in reality. You'll be able to remember concentration, association, and repetition. So this is another way you can associate. So it's not really compulsory for you to remember each of the words. Just remember what CAT is. Or maybe picture the stuff in your head, then you'll be able to remember these concepts. That is mnemonics. So instead of trying to study, trying to link it to mnemonics, abbreviations, and try to link it to personal experiences too. So if you can establish those connections very well, you'll be able to study and remember forever at any point in time. In the next 20 to 10 years, if you can remember the emotional experience that you've had, the personal experience that you link to what you are trying to learn, and the semantic association, you'll be able to remember at any point in time, no matter the time you study. So thank you so much for watching. You got so much value. Like the video and also subscribe to the channel. You can also check out this other video on the full overview I explained about CATs and how you can actually know more about each of the elements, which is concentration, repetition, and testing. But I've explained what association is. So thank you so much for watching. See you on the next one.